In 2019, a woman named Kathryn Kuhlman had a vision that would change everything. She saw something that hadn't happened yet. Something about you. Kathryn wasn't famous. She didn't have millions of followers. But she possessed a gift. A rare ability. The gift of foresight. The power to see beyond the veil of time. And what she saw about 2025 will give you goosebumps. Because maybe, just maybe, you are one of the chosen. Have you ever felt something different about yourself? Something you can't explain? A feeling that you should be doing something greater with your life? Kathryn felt it too. At 34, she worked as a nurse in a small-town hospital. A normal life, a routine existence, until the night everything changed. It was 3 a.m. when she woke up. It wasn't a typical dream. It was a vision. She saw thousands of women around the world. Ordinary women just like you and me. But there was something special about them. A different light. A strength they didn't even know they possessed. And they all had one thing in common. They would be activated in 2025. Kathryn wrote it all down. Every detail. Every characteristic of these women. And when you hear the signs, you'll understand why I'm sharing this with you today. The first sign Kathryn saw was surprising. These women weren't the obvious ones. They weren't already on stage. They weren't already recognized. They were the unseen, the ones who doubted themselves, the ones who were afraid to speak, the ones who felt too small to make a difference. Do you recognize yourself in this? Kathryn saw that these women carried a specific pain, the pain of knowing they had something important to say, but couldn't find the courage, the pain of feeling an inner calling, but not knowing how to answer it. If this resonates with you, you need to pay attention to what comes next. Because Kathryn didn't just see who the chosen ones would be. She saw when they would awaken, and that moment is much closer than you think. The second sign is even more specific. Kathryn saw that these women would go through a period of unconscious preparation. They would face challenges that seemed to break them, but were actually strengthening them. Losses that seemed to devastate them, but were actually purifying them. Have you gone through something like this in recent years? Something that made you question everything? Something that forced you to look deeper within yourself? Kathryn called this the desert period, a time where these women would feel abandoned, but were actually being molded for something extraordinary. And there's a third sign that will make you stop and think. Kathryn saw that these women would receive confirmations, small signs that they weren't crazy, that what they felt was real. Sometimes it would be a vivid dream, sometimes an impossible coincidence, sometimes a word from a stranger that would touch their hearts directly. Have you had experiences like this? Moments where you felt the universe was trying to tell you something? Because if you have, you need to understand what Kathryn saw about the timing. Her vision was very clear about 2025. It wasn't vague. It wasn't symbolic. It was specific. She saw that in this year something would change in the spiritual atmosphere of the planet. A different frequency. A dimensional opening that would allow certain voices to be amplified. And these voices wouldn't be the ones you'd expect. Kathryn saw women in kitchens speaking truths that would change entire families. She saw women in offices sharing insights that would revolutionize companies. She saw women in small communities planting seeds that would become global movements. She saw the power of authentic voices, unpolished voices, voices that tremble, but speak anyway. And here's something that will surprise you. Kathryn wasn't religious in the traditional sense. She didn't go to church. She didn't follow specific doctrines. But she understood something profound about the sacred feminine, about the creative power of women, about the unique capacity we have to generate life, not just physical, but spiritual. And that's what she saw in 2025, a collective awakening of the prophetic feminine. But not everyone will be called, and not everyone who is called will answer. There's a fourth sign that Kathryn saw, and this might be the most important. She saw that the chosen ones would have a specific characteristic. They wouldn't seek fame. They wouldn't seek recognition. They would seek real impact, true transformation. They would be motivated not by ego, but by love, not by personal ambition, but by collective service. Do you feel this way? Is there something in you that wants to serve something greater than yourself? Because if there is, you need to know about the fifth sign. Kathryn saw that these women would have a special relationship with words, not necessarily as professional writers or speakers, but as channels of truths that need to be spoken. They would be women who, when they spoke, people would stop to listen, not for perfect eloquence, but for pure authenticity. Have you noticed that when you speak from the heart, people really listen? That your words have a different weight? This is one of the clearest signs. But there's something deeper here. Kathryn saw that 2025 wouldn't just be about individual voices. It would be about a network, a connection between these women around the world. They wouldn't know each other physically. Many wouldn't even know of each other's existence. But they would be connected by something invisible, by a common frequency. And when one spoke, the others would feel it. When one rose, the others would be strengthened. When one doubted, the others would know how to pray. It's as if it were a global spiritual body, each one being a vital cell of a larger organism. Have you felt this? This inexplicable connection with women you don't even know very well, but feel are your soul sisters? Kathryn saw something more. She saw that these women wouldn't be perfect. Far from it. They would have fears, insecurities, moments of weakness, and that's exactly why they would be chosen. Because the world doesn't need more manufactured perfection. The world needs real humanity, courageous vulnerability, strength that comes from acknowledged fragility. Have you noticed that your greatest influences have been people who didn't hide their imperfections, but transformed them into wisdom? That's the sixth sign. The ability to transform pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom, breaks into openings for light. Kathryn saw women who wouldn't deny their difficult stories, but would use them as bridges to reach other wounded souls. And here's something she saw about the specific timing. 2025 wouldn't be the end. It would be the beginning. She saw that the awakening would begin in 2025, but would extend over the next 7 years. A gradual but consistent transformation, like seeds planted in one season, blooming in many others. And each woman answering the call in 2025 would be a seed for those who would come after. But there's a seventh sign Kathryn saw, and this one might be the most personal. She saw that these women would have a specific moment of recognition, a moment where something would click inside them, where they would know, without a shadow of a doubt, that they were one of the chosen. It wouldn't be a grand moment. It would be intimate, silent, sacred. Maybe it would be while listening to music. Maybe it would be while reading something. Maybe it would be in a moment of prayer or meditation. But they would know. And from that moment on, they wouldn't be able to ignore the call anymore. Have you ever had a moment like that? A moment where you felt that something greater was moving in your life? Because if you have, or if you're having it now, you need to understand something important. Kathryn saw that this recognition would come with a responsibility. Not the responsibility of being perfect, but the responsibility of being real. Not the responsibility of having all the answers, but the responsibility of asking the right questions. Not the responsibility of changing the world alone, but the responsibility of doing your part, however small it may seem. And Kathryn saw something more about these women. They wouldn't have ready-made platforms. They would have to build their own. Some would use social media. Others would use small groups. Some would write. Others would speak. Some would teach. Others would simply live so authentically that they would inspire by example. But they would all have something in common. They wouldn't wait for permission. They wouldn't wait for someone to choose them. They would choose themselves. And that, according to Kathryn, would be the hallmark of the prophetic voices of 2025. The courage to choose yourself. The courage to trust your own voice. The courage to speak even while trembling. Do you have that courage? Or are you waiting for someone to give you permission to be who you truly are? Because Kathryn saw something more. She saw that the chosen ones of 2025 would receive confirmation signs. Not once, not twice, but multiple confirmations throughout the year. And if you've come this far, if something inside you is resonating with these words, maybe this is the first sign. Kathryn described these signs as echoes of the future, moments where you would feel like you're remembering something that hasn't happened yet, where you would know things you haven't learned, where you would speak words that would come from a source deeper than your mind. Have you ever had that experience of saying something and then thinking, where did that come from? That's the 8th sign. The chosen ones would receive direct downloads, insights they couldn't explain, wisdom they haven't studied, understandings that arrive ready-made, complete. And Kathryn saw something fascinating about the mechanism of this. She saw that these women would be like antennas, tuned into a specific frequency of the spiritual field. But here's what no one else tells you about being a spiritual antenna. You also pick up interference. You feel things that others don't feel. You perceive energies that others ignore. This sometimes makes you feel crazy. Sometimes it makes you question your own sanity. Sometimes it makes you want to turn off all that sensitivity. But Kathryn saw that this hypersensitivity isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's exactly what allows you to be a clear channel for truths that need to emerge. Do you consider yourself an overly sensitive person? Do you feel overwhelmed by the energy of others? Do you pick up on things that people don't even realize they're emanating? That's the 9th sign, and maybe the most misunderstood, because society teaches us that sensitivity is weakness, that feeling too much is a problem, that we should be harder, more rational, more disconnected. But Kathryn saw the opposite. She saw that the prophetic voices of 2025 would be precisely those who kept their sensitivity intact, those who refused to harden their hearts, those who chose to feel, even when it hurt. And there's a prophetic reason for that. How can you speak to wounded hearts if yours is shielded? How can you touch souls if you've lost the ability to be touched? How can you be a channel of healing if you're disconnected from your own pain? Kathryn saw that the chosen ones of 2025 wouldn't be the strongest in the traditional sense. They would be the most courageously vulnerable, those who transformed their sensitivity into a superpower. And here's something that will surprise you about what she saw regarding the content of these voices. Kathryn didn't see women preaching complex sermons. She didn't see elaborate theories or complicated doctrines. She saw deep simplicity, basic truths spoken in ways that pierce straight to the heart, common words carrying eternal weight, as if these women had access to the core of things, to what really matters, to what people most need to hear, even when they don't know they need it. Have you ever had moments where you said something simple, but it completely changed someone's perspective? Where a phrase of yours echoed in another person's mind for days? That's the 10th sign. The ability to say the obvious in a revolutionary way. To say what everyone knows, but no one can articulate. Kathryn called this everyday prophecy. Not predicting the future, but revealing the present. Not announcing what will happen, but showing what's already happening, and no one is seeing. And she saw that these revelations would come in simple moments, during a casual conversation, in a social media comment, in a spontaneous response, in a sincere outpouring. The people around these women would start saying things like, "You always know what to say. Your words came at the right time. It's like you read my soul." Have you heard that? People telling you that you have a special gift with words. even when you don't feel special. Because here's what Kathryn saw about the internal resistance of these women. She saw that they would fight against their own calling, that they would say, "I'm not good enough. I haven't studied enough. I don't have the credentials for this." And that's exactly why they would be chosen. Kathryn saw that spiritual pride would be the greatest enemy of prophetic voices, that genuine humility would be the #1 prerequisite, that God would use precisely those who felt too small to usurp the glory. If you're struggling with a feeling that you should be doing something bigger, but you feel inadequate, you're on the right track. If you feel you have something to give, but you don't know if you're qualified, you are exactly where you need to be. If you hear an inner whisper saying, "It's your turn," but your rational mind argues against it, pay attention to the whisper, because Kathryn Kuhlman saw that 2025 would be the year the whisper becomes a voice, where intuition becomes direction, where the calling becomes courage. But she also saw something about the opposition that would come. Kathryn saw that not everyone would be happy with these voices emerging, that there would be resistance, that some people would try to silence, diminish, disqualify, and she saw how the chosen ones should respond, not with arguments, not with defensiveness, but with more love, with more authenticity, with more service. She saw that the only defense of these women would be the fruit of what they speak, the real transformation that their words generate, the love they demonstrate in action. Are you ready for this? To speak your truth even when not everyone will like it? To keep your heart open even in the face of criticism? Because Kathryn saw that this would be the greatest test of the chosen ones of 2025, the ability to love those who reject them, to serve those who scorn them, to bless those who curse them. And here's something profound about what she saw regarding each one's personal timing. Kathryn saw that each chosen one would have a specific moment of activation during 2025, not on the same day, not in the same month, but each in her perfect time. For some, it would be at the beginning of the year, an awakening that would come with the first days of January, a clarity that would emerge with the resolutions of the new cycle. For others, it would be in the middle of the year, after months of invisible preparation, after internal processes that would seem to lead nowhere, but in fact would be aligning everything. For others still, it would be at the end of 2025, when all the other awakenings had already prepared the ground, when they would enter as those who would close the activation cycle. But they would all know when the time came. It would be unmistakable. It would be as if a key were turned inside the soul. And Kathryn saw that some are already feeling the beginnings of this. Some are already in the final period of preparation. Some are already receiving the downloads. Some are already being tested. If you are going through a period of spiritual intensification, if you are dreaming more than usual, if you are having insights you can't explain, if you are feeling urgencies you can't name, perhaps you are one of the first to be activated. Kathryn saw something specific about the first ones. They would be the ones who would prepare the way for the others. They would face more resistance because they would be opening trails. But they would also receive more spiritual support because they would need more strength. And she saw that these first ones would have a special characteristic. They wouldn't just speak. They would live in a way that would validate their words. They would be examples before being voices. Do you feel that your life is being reorganized for something you don't yet fully understand? That doors are closing and others are opening in ways you didn't plan? That's the 11th sign. Life being divinely aligned for prophetic purpose. Circumstances conspiring in favor of the calling. The universe removing distractions and creating focus. And Kathryn saw that this would be accompanied by an inexplicable peace, even in the midst of the chaos of transformation, even when everything seems to be changing. A deep peace of knowing that you are on the right path. But she also saw that there would be moments of intense doubt, moments where these women would question everything. where they would feel like imposters, where they would want to give up. And it was in those very moments that she saw the greatest divine interventions happening. Powerful confirmations, undeniable signs, supernatural support. As if heaven were saying, "No, you're not crazy. Yes, this is real. Keep going." Have you gone through cycles like this? Of absolute certainty followed by complete doubt, followed by clear confirmation. This is the preparation pattern Kathryn saw for all the chosen ones. A process of strengthening faith through questioning, a refinement of conviction through trial. And she saw that this wouldn't be an accident. It would be intentional, because prophetic voices that have never been tested are weak voices, and 2025 will need unbreakable voices. Now let me tell you something Kathryn saw about what would happen when these women finally fully accepted the calling. She saw a wave of authenticity that would spread across the world. Woman after woman choosing truth over performance, choosing impact over impression, choosing purpose over popularity. And this wave would change everything, not only in the spiritual realm, in the social, professional, family, and cultural realms. Because when a woman stops pretending and starts being real, it gives permission for others to do the same. And when women begin to be real collectively, the world has no choice but to transform. Kathryn saw families being healed by mothers who finally found their voice. She saw companies being transformed by employees who stopped hiding. She saw communities being revolutionized by women who decided to stop diminishing themselves. And she saw that this would begin silently, almost invisibly, like yeast in dough, like salt in food, like light in a dark place. But the result would be impossible to ignore. If you've come this far, if something inside you is burning, if you feel that these words are speaking directly to your soul, maybe it's because you are one of those Kathryn saw. Maybe it's because your time has come. Maybe it's because the world is waiting for your voice. The question isn't whether you're good enough. The question is whether you are courageous enough to trust what you are feeling. The question isn't whether you have credentials. The question is whether you have conviction. The question isn't whether others will accept you. The question is whether you will accept yourself. Because Kathryn saw that the greatest obstacle for the chosen ones of 2025 wouldn't be external opposition. It would be internal resistance. It would be the fear of being seen, the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being enough. And she saw that those who would overcome these fears wouldn't be the ones who would get rid of them completely, but those who would choose to act even while feeling fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is faith stronger than fear. And if you feel you may be one of the chosen ones, your first prophetic action is simple. It is to believe. It is to accept that maybe, just maybe, you are exactly who the world needs to hear at this moment. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. Because the prophetic voices of 2025 are not the ones who are ready. They are the ones who are willing. And if you are willing, if you feel the call burning within you, if you recognize the signs, then stop waiting for permission. Kathryn saw you, and now you see yourself too. In this vision, the prophecy, it has already begun. And you are a part of it. This isn't some distant ethereal prediction. This is real. This is happening now. The question isn't if you're involved. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? What will you do with this power? What will you do with this incredible, life-altering revelation from Kathryn Kuhlman? What will you choose? This isn't just about you, after all. It's about the ripple effect, the impact you will have on the world, on others, on those who are waiting, who need your light, your strength, your unique gifts. Think about it. For a moment, Kathryn Kuhlman, a woman who saw beyond the veil of time, who glimpsed the future, and saw you. What did she see? What is your destiny? What role will you play in the unfolding of this prophecy? What seeds of greatness lie dormant within you, waiting for the right moment to bloom? The weight of this revelation might feel immense, overwhelming. But remember, you are not alone. There are others, chosen ones, like you, who carry this same burden, this same sacred responsibility, this shared journey. It is the very fabric of this prophecy. This isn't a competition, it is a collaboration. The path ahead may seem uncertain, daunting. There will be challenges, moments of doubt, times when you question your abilities, but within you burns an inner flame, a power waiting to be unleashed, the strength to overcome, the wisdom to navigate. Trust in your intuition, trust in your heart, trust in the vision Kathryn Kuhlman saw, trust in the power within you, the power to make a real difference. The years ahead, 2025 and beyond, will be a time of immense change, a time of upheaval, but also a time of extraordinary potential, a time of profound awakening. Will you embrace this destiny, or will you let fear hold you back? The choice is yours. This is your story. This is your moment. This is your prophecy. This is your legacy.